And a good morning to you. Happy Friday the 13th. How about that? That doesn't happen very often, but we got one this time. We'll head to our phones as we do each and every Friday morning. Check in with a good friend from Sporting News, Bill Bender. Bill, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Please tell me that I'm asleep and I'm really dreaming and Bill Belichick is not the head coach at Carolina.
Yeah, you have some pinch me moments like that during the season. The coaching carousel went really haywire over the last 48 hours. You know, you had that happen. You had Scott Frost and Rich Rodriguez return to their schools. You have Dan Mullen back in the college game. So if we were looking for some excitement in the coaching carousel, I think I'm excited that Belichick's in the game. I'm going to love it.
I don't have a problem with Belichick being in the game as Belichick, the coach. I just don't see that dynamic's going to work. Bill's never been one that he's going to hobnob with the hobnobbers.
No, but he's a football coach, and that part of the game has changed, right? Like, he was talking about being in living rooms and doing those things. I mean, Nick Saban did the same thing. And we're seeing Nick Saban's, like, real personality pop out a little bit on game day.
I agree.
It's not like, you know, their press conference personality versus who they really are two very different things. And I would assume the same is true with Bill Belichick. He pushes guys hard. You saw, like, but the other thing, they're like, well, he can't be cool. I mean, you don't think guys are going to think it's cool if Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski and Julian Edelman are hanging around at North Carolina practices? Guys like, I guess Lawrence Taylor would be dated, but, I mean, you can make North Carolina a cool school pretty quickly.
How about the presentation they gave at the press conference with the cutoff hoodie with the UNC emblem on the front of it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it'll make it reminds me, and I wrote the comparison for us, Bill Walsh at Stanford back in the 90s when he was, you know, he's greatest offensive mind, in my opinion, in college football or NFL history. So, yeah, he had a really good first year, and then it kind of wore off. I mean, the key will Bill Belichick will have to stay interested in this because unlike the NFL, you know, if you lose interest in this job, you can be 5-7 real quick. And I'm not saying he lost interest in the NFL job; it just didn't go as well after Brady was gone.
Yeah, well, you know, next year you look at Carolina's schedule, and honestly, he has a realistic shot going 9-2. You know, I think his biggest competition on the schedule is going to be Syracuse and Clemson. A lot of the other teams he doesn't play. Carolina doesn't play. That's why I hate the big conferences. But, you know, it just seems surreal to me of Bill Belichick in college football. Not as – I guess it even amplifies it because he's at Chapel Hill, but the biggest thing is because he's back in college football.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes it exciting. Like I said, you know, it's not going to make the same viral splash that Deion did in Colorado, but it doesn't mean, like I said, it doesn't mean he can't win. You look at their schedule, I see 8-9 wins.
Yeah.
You know, and worst case scenario, you get college got with Bill O'Brien. I mean, Bill O'Brien won 7 games. He coached with Bill Belichick. He's kind of bounced between the two levels, and there's no reason why he can't have success. You know, that you're seeing the reports that he did this to kind of spite the NFL. Maybe that's true, but, you know, again, it's good for college football to have I can't sit here and say it's bad for college football to have the greatest football coach of all time in the sport.
No, I agree. I agree. It just Carolina's such a wine and cheese atmosphere. It's just little hard to see Bill Belichick in that environment. But can he coach? I'll never take that away from him. Dealing with some of the other things now, and he's a guy. This is a comment I heard Cowherd say yesterday. You know, college football used to have a little bit of structure to it. Now it's the Wild Wild West. And if there's any coach that wants structure in what they do, it would be Bill Belichick.
Well, I want structure with my 8th graders, yeah. But I agree. I think, but the new environment is easier to compete in some ways. You know, we're living in an environment where SMU and Boise State and Arizona State flipped their program in 2 years. They won the Big 12. SMU first year in the ACC won the ACC. So, you can flip your roster with the portal.
Sure you can.
Recruiting's not secondary, but you can do it without being lights out in recruiting as well. So, I think there's a way for him to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a way for him to do it. I just hope it doesn't go south on him. It's kind of like you. If this doesn't work out, is this how you want to be your last hurrah?
Yeah, I understand that, but Bill Walsh, again, his last 2 years at Stanford were not great.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it impacted his legacy one bit. You have to actually look it up and you'd be like, oh yeah, he coached those years too, and it didn't go well, and
right.
Then you kind of move on. So Belichick obviously a lot more visible than Bill Walsh then because of all the outlets we have now.
Right.
So I see what you're saying, but he'll coach there as long as he wants to coach there, and I think he'll do well while he is.
Well, and here's the other thing. Talk Bill Bender from Sporting News. You talk about some more coaches. The best hire that I heard, and I had not seen the demo on Scott Frost, but the one I really liked was Rich Rod going back to West Virginia. I thought that's awesome.
Yeah, he'll do well there. That's the case full circle.
Yes.
He left West Virginia for Michigan. It was super controversial at the time, and now he comes back, and it is what it is. It's going to be a good thing. I think Rich Rodriguez has gone through the ups and downs of a head coaching career. It didn't go well at Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't go well at the end at Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of gets through Jacksonville State, does a good job, and gets to return home. And, again, there's another place where I think with him there, they'll be able to compete.
Yes.
Because you can compete. If you can compete pretty quickly at West Virginia with the right pieces.
I agree 100%. I know that you've written some stuff about projecting the college football playoffs. Tell me how you feel about it, and has anything changed, or will there be anything that's changed since the season ended to change what you originally thought it may go?
With Georgia, the quarterback situation, how are they going to play without Carson back if they don't have him? I don't know if he's been ruled out officially, but how does the dynamic of their season change? Now, some people might say, well, it was time to give Gunnar Stockton a look anyway. Yeah, that's the big injury. There's always one big injury, and if they play well without him, and they played well in the second half, they could still win the national title. Other than that, not really. Oregon's got a tough path. That's why you got to seed this thing correctly instead of seeding it the way that they do. And, Ohio State, Tennessee will be that first-round game we'll keep a really close eye on.
All right. Now, in my opinion, when you get to the playoffs, of course, I've said this, you've got a 2-week break anyway. If you get a bye, you get a 3-week break. I don't want buys. I want 16 teams, no buys. I want once the teams have been picked for the playoff, I want to reseed. I don't care what you did in your conference. I want to reseed, and I want more information to do that. And I want to get away from a committee. I don't want anybody to have an opinion on this. We need to come up with some type of analytics so we can keep the opinion side out of it. That's just me.
Oh, and then you'd have to have something similar to the BCS. I'm not opposed to that, where if you had
I like the BCS. It just wasn't enough teams.
Correct. I agree with that as well. I think if we had a computer model like that, we have one in Ohio. I think I've told you this before. The high school computer system, and there's 7 different divisions of football, and it weighs computer points and how many points you get for a win. It's really cool, honestly. And it does a fairly good job of gauging. Now, the problem we have in Ohio is we let everybody in the playoff now. We used to only let 4 teams a region in. Now we basically let just about everybody in. So it definitely changes the game. But, yeah, a computer model, I think you need both. I think you need a computer model and a human element because sometimes there are glitches. But if we had some sort of combination, a committee and a computer, and you weigh the two, and then maybe go from there.
Talking about the first-round games, does Texas make a change from Ewers to Manning?
No, I don't think they will. I don't. And maybe in a game. in like an in-game switch, like something similar to Jalen and Tua. But I've been saying all season, they're gonna. It's pretty clear they're gonna ride with Ewers. They'll go with Arch next year, whether that means Quentin Ewers goes to the NFL or goes to the transfer portal. That will probably happen. But I think right now the way that they're set up, Ewers isn't playing bad. It's only 2 games. He had 2 games where he had below a 60% completion percentage, and they both happened to be against Georgia. So maybe that's just a bad matchup. But I think Quinn Ewers has had plenty of success this season. Will continue to have plenty of success.
Well, and I agree with that. The other question is, first-round game, Tennessee at Ohio State. Ohio State's given 7.5, but if Tennessee wins, what does that do to Ryan Day?
Well, I mean, Ross Bjork came out with a public vote of confidence yesterday, so he's going to be our coach. Ryan Day will be the coach of Ohio State next year.
Okay.
I don't think they fire him immediately. It will. I mean, look, he's getting tons of great recruits. He has the best winning percentage of any coach in college football. He just can't win that one game. And here we're about to find out if Ohio State goes on a run. The offseason will be, we got to beat Michigan, but hey, we're still capable of winning. This. If they don't, then it's going to be very toxic here off season. That's why that game's got so much kind of riding on it. Ought to be really interesting to see.
So you see looking at your predictions, you see no upsets in the first round.
No, and we need one, and I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I don't care about those predictions so much as I want this thing to work, and, I'm worried about that. When you have 4 games that have a spread of 7 points or more, then you're like, okay, well, where's the upset? Where's the magic? Where's the stuff that makes March Madness work, and it has to make this work? So if that doesn't happen, then, obviously it will be tough for, to keep the interest. So especially that second weekend when they're going head-to-head against a bunch of NFL games.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing with when I look at the first round, the one, I guess, the only one, and that's why I brought up to Tennessee, Ohio State, that's the only one I could see maybe the upset sneaking in there. I don't think Indiana can put enough together to beat Notre Dame. That would probably be my second choice. I don't think SMU's got anything for Penn State, and I don't think Clemson has anything for Texas.
No, I think, you said it in order. I actually think Indiana and Notre Dame could be competitive if Indiana can run the football. They were not able to run the football against Michigan. They were not able to run the football against Ohio State. But I think, if they can get a running game going, and Kurt Cignetti shows that they learned some lessons from that blowout at Ohio State, they could have a pretty good they could make that a competitive game.
Do we have any other big coaching changes that you see in college football coming down the pike?
I'm not sure. I don't think so, but you never know.
It'll be quiet. It's going to be kind of quiet, honestly, and a small number for this year.
Well, from the Power Four, yes. I mean, they only had 4 coaching changes there, and the Group of 5 though had a ton, so it's a different dynamic there. I just think with the buyouts, with the NIL factor, with money matters, and one way to save money is not to pay a $25 million buyout. So I think that's a huge factor in that discussion, and that's probably why we have fewer than before.
You go down to the Group 5, as you were talking about. The only one that bothers me a little bit, because I'm an app guy, I just thought they must have had their eye on their guy long before the season was over, because less than a week they've named a head coach. And I'm just hoping that it's not something that kind of goes the same way as Drinkowitz, because I've never forgiven him for that, and I think that's kind of what put App's program in a little bit of a tailspin, because he basically did it and didn't care what it did to the program. And I understand you've got to look after you, but dang, 1 year, that's just not quite fair to anybody.
Right, and we're that's going to happen in a lot of these schools. So, like I said, I don't know how many more coaching changes we'll get. I know we had some controversial ones like Charles Huff going to Southern Miss from Marshall. I don't know that we'll have too many more. But we will. We'll have like 2 or 3 more. And, as you get into the off season, there's always one or two that pop up, or retirement or somebody resigning, something like that.
Anything you need to make us aware of before we tie it up for today, sir?
No, we've got plenty. We'll have our All-American team out next week. We'll have a Player of the Year, All-American, those kind of things. Always a special weekend with the Heisman. Look forward to it, and we'll get after it this weekend.
I'll catch up with you next week. Bill Bender, Sporting News, as always. I appreciate your time, my friend.
Hey, no problem, Lanny. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, buddy. Bill does a great job in what he covers and how he reaches all of the topics that you're looking for. I appreciate him taking the time with us. That'll do it for us for today. I'll see you again next week. Stay warm. It's cold outside. If you don't have anything else going on, make sure you head up to Cat Square tomorrow. Cat Square Parade, the 50th Cat Square Parade's going on. In the meantime, have a good one. I'll see you again next week. Don't forget the boys will be back in here about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'll see you sometime next week. Have a good one, folks.